In this video, I'm going to show you how to make some goat milk dog treat yaks. Some hard dog treats. So you're going to need a few things for this. First, I like to use a larger pan, depending on how much milk you're making, how much treats you're making. But when your milk, you're going to boil it, and so once it boils, it's going to be boiling really fast, and if you're not watching, it will overboil your pan. So I like to fill up the milk halfway, so I'm only actually doing like this much milk, a little above halfway actually. So if you're making a small amount, you're still going to want a halfway bigger pan. And then some apple cider vinegar. You can use lemon instead. And I started using apple cider vinegar instead of lemon because lemon costs more and you need more of it. So apple cider vinegar can actually use less, and it both has the same effect and they're both safe for dogs. Then I have a strainer and a bowl, and so this is to strain out your cheese once you have that process after. And you also need goat milk. Now, you can use raw, you can use pasteurized, you can use farm fresh, you can use store-bought, any goat milk. But personally, I recommend getting raw farm fresh, or if you have it farmed, use that. But you can use store-bought. It's just not as healthy. But here we are. So we're gonna add our milk to the pan. So I'm putting the heat on over medium, but you don't want it on high because too high, this is going to boil way too. It's just going to be hard to. It's going to overboil. So I'm adding my goat milk to the pan. Yeah, I have it in these weird containers because I just milked them into here, so it's fine. And I'm just adding. So I have this on about a 7, and that will work. So you're just gonna wait for it to boil. Now, I do have this a little less than halfway filled. Let me show you that. This is a little less than halfway filled. I usually go a little over halfway filled, but this is okay. So I'm waiting for it to boil. Once it boils, you want to work fast because it will overboil, and there's several times it's happened to me, and so I just started doing halfway pan because it just goes really fast, and so you want to be really persistent watching it. You also mix this regularly because you don't want it to burn at the bottom of the pan, and that's also the reason why you don't want to put it on too high. So mixing this, make sure it doesn't overboil. So once this starts boiling quickly, it's going to happen fast. So once it starts boiling, you turn off the stove, and then you'll add an apple cider vinegar. I don't measure, I just kind of just eyeball it, and you don't need much, just a little bit of that. And then if your cheese isn't that thick and you have whey that's like whiter and it's not really whey, I'll show you after what whey, the color whey should be. But if it's looking white and not like yellow, then next time just add more apple cider vinegar because it probably didn't get all the cheese that could have got out of there. But I had that happen to me, and then I redid it. Like, I poured the whey back into the pan and redid the process, and it really didn't get much. So at that point, it's just, you're past that. Just next time add more. It's no big deal. Or your whey won't go to waste because whey is also healthy for dogs, so you can freeze those into ice cubes and give those as treats, and they love it. So we're just going to wait for this to boil. I'll be right back. It's boiling now, so I'm turning the stove off, and then I'm adding my apple cider vinegar. Once you add this, the boil will literally stop. So I add some on this corner, and I add some in this corner. That way it gets spread around. And then I'm gently stirring it that way and that way. That way all that apple cider vinegar is getting in to the milk. And now you're gonna wait for it to separate. It's already starting to. This is how it will look when it's separated. So now what I do is I have my strainer over the bowl. I'm going to pour the whey into it. Now I'm going to try and get that liquid into the bowl first before I get the whey in. That way you're not pouring liquid over whey. So I'm just like kind of trying to hold that cheese back. I'm sorry, I meant the cheese and whey, not liquid and whey. Sorry. And then I'm just going to pour the rest in. So now, this bowl's kind of full, so I'm going to move this cheese over to the pan and have this strain out for a little bit, like, just have it strain out. So, put it over this pan. So after this has been sitting for a while, it's been sitting for about 15 minutes, I just mix it up to get any of the extra whey out, and then I'll pour this into a towel or cheesecloth, and now I'm going to squeeze this out, all the extra whey out. You can skip this step, but the more whey you get out, the harder your treats are going to be. So I try to squeeze all this extra stuff out. After you squeeze that out, I'll get, like, you can use anything, like any pan, any like skillet or something like that. I'm using a brownie pan, and I put some wax paper down, like any paper, or like you can even put a towel down, but I'm using wax paper because it's cheap. And then you put your cheese in it and just squish it down into the pan. Now I flip over this wax paper, and now I'm going to put heavy weights on it. So I have heavy weights on it, and I'm going to let it sit on the countertop for 6 hours. So you want it to sit for at least 6 hours. I have done it longer before, and so that's fine. I've actually done it, forgot about it before, and it was there for a couple days, and that's completely fine. It's still safe for dogs. It's a lot easier with the cheese press. You don't have to put weights on or anything, but I don't have a cheese press. And so I'm going to let that sit, and then we'll cut it up and cook it. And for the whey, I freeze it into ice cubes and then put the ice cubes inside a baggie. I sometimes also put some kibble in there too. You can also add the whey straight to your dog's food or have them just drink it plain like it's water, or you can add it to their water too. And they love it, and it's very healthy for dogs, so you can do that. And if you have so much whey, you can also freeze it and then thaw it out and give it to them later. So yeah. After your treats have been sitting for at least 6 hours, I preheat the oven to 300, take the weights off the cheese, move the cheese to parchment paper, and bacon sheet. Parchment paper actually isn't necessary as it won't really stick to the pan because we'll be flipping it through the process, but you can use parchment paper if you don't want to have to clean your pan. And then you'll cut your cheese into bone strips for your dog. I'm going to get these treats into the oven. In about 10 to 15 minutes, I'll check these treats. If it's getting brown on either the top or the bottom, then I will flip the treats over, and I'll just keep checking it, like every 10-15 minutes, and keep flipping it back and over. Now, if it's taken a while, you don't really want to turn the oven up. You kind of just want it to do its thing, because the slower pace you cook it, the more the inside of the treats will be cooked, and the crispier the treats will be. And so it would be a longer distraction for your dog, more like a bone. I realize the temperature is actually supposed to be at 325 and not 300. It can be 300, but I prefer to do 325 just so it doesn't take as long. So now it's time to flip it. So I'm going to pull these out a little bit. Get one of these and just flip these over. Look at that crispiness. Just cut these out. So the treats are done now. So this is how they are. And that's it. We're done, and that's how you make goat milk treat yolks. And now you don't have to go ahead and buy those anymore. You can make them on your own for way cheaper, and you know what's going in those ingredients. So thank you for watching, and please let me know down below if you enjoyed this recipe, if your dogs liked it, and if this was helpful. And see you next time.